Okay, this is Gary from Texas, and today I'm going to go to a video and we're going to do a garden tour, but also kind of, what do you do whenever things don't go according to plan. I was thinking back during the Gulf War, there was a general that was talking. He said that one thing that you had to have was a battle plan. He said the funny thing about battle plans, though, is as soon as the shooting starts, the battle plan becomes obsolete and you have to start changing everything. And that's kind of the way it is with gardening. You can have a nice planned out way, but then nature happens, and sometimes things don't go according to plan. This year, everything was looking good. The fall cool season crop was doing good, and we got down to 13 degrees, 12, 13 degrees on Christmas Day. That killed all the broccoli, it killed all the cauliflower, it knocked the onions back, so you kind of had to reload. It also did a number on the citrus, so we had to pick all the citrus that day. But that also means that next year the citrus is probably not going to make. I got a lot more damage to the fruit trees than I thought, but everything was still, you think, okay, we're still going to spring. The other thing it did, it knocked out all of our carrots, and I replanted the carrots. Something ate the carrots that came up the second time, so the third time I planted the carrots, and finally it took. The other problem I had was whenever we finally got everything going, and everything was going well. I got tomatoes planted, the carrots was doing good. The fruit trees bloomed out really well this year because we had cold winter, and we have cold winters. The fruit trees tend to, in the south, the fruit trees will bloom better. But then we had another freeze in the middle of March. Typically our last freeze date is March 5th. Well, here around March 15th, March 20th, we got down to a little bit below 30 degrees. It killed all the fruit buds and the fruit. I actually had peaches and plums on the trees. It knocked the fire out of them. The corn that I had planted, it came up, it ended up killing it. The beans were killed, which is not that big a problem. It did, the frost before nipped back the tomato plants. They've rebounded. It knocked the potatoes all the way back to the ground, but they've come back. So when you start gardening, sometimes things happen. It's not really your fault. Neither one of these events was typical, but they happen. But anyway, to get on with the gardening tour, here's the carrots, and they're doing really well right now. They're still not sized up yet, but they're starting to. But they're looking nice. Over here, you'll notice here's that damage that we got to that freeze that happened on the blackberries. These aren't never going to make. However, like this one here has started putting some blooms on, so these blooms will be okay. But they got knocked back pretty hard, which is something that we weren't expecting. And then we planted the other bed with the pepper plants and eggplant over there. This here's some of the broccoli and eggplants. Even got one strawberry plant. That I put some 7 dust trying to kill the fire ants to get on there. There's not a really good way of killing fire ants. Over here is some of our, that's a sweetie pie blackberry. It's starting to bloom out again. And then over here is the Ponca, which is a new variety of blackberry, and it's doing well. This tree still, it got bit back a little bit by that other that 30-degree freeze because it's put on the flush of growth, which it stood at 12 degree temperatures, but then when you get a flush of growth and you have another freeze, it's going to bite it back again. So it's still, it don't make it, but we're not getting any fruit this year, and it ought to do okay for next year. Come on through here. Here's some of the plum trees. Most of the plums are on the north side of the tree, and they've got plums on them. That's about the only fruit probably I'm going to make this year, other than stuff that's in the front yard that's in pots. This is the corn. The sad thing about it, if there's one row, if they all look like that, I try to go ahead and make it, but we're going to plow this up and plant something else. And then here with the other corn, I planted from here all the way to where you see the beans. I planted Ohio Blue. I've cut out one variety. I said I'm just going to go ahead and plant the Ohio Blue. So I have Ohio Blue, I have Hickory King, and then I've also got the Bloody Butcher I had from last year. So I have 3 different varieties of corn to try for the corn flour. And then if you come over here, more of the plum trees, and this younger plum tree. Here is where the potatoes, they've come back, they're looking nice. The ones that I healed up did do better than the ones that I didn't, but Now I know it's going to probably hurt the yield because they did go all the way back to the ground, had to come back growing, but they're looking good now, so hopefully they'll do okay. And this one's starting to flush out again on the orange tree. And this is the onions, and you know they are what they are. I did get mixed up with these. I was going to fertilize them some more, but the weatherman said, hey, here about a month or 6 weeks ago, the weatherman said, hey, Monday's supposed to be a fair chance of rain, but the really good chances on Thursday. Well, it rained, so I was going to wait to fertilize on Wednesday, so that way it would go ahead and the fertilizer wouldn't, volatilize and go in the atmosphere, because nitrogen will leave you if you just leave it on top of the soil. Well, it rained Monday and then didn't rain Thursday at all. Took it out of forecast. About 2 weeks later, he did the same exact thing. Supposed to rain, I think, on Tuesday, but Friday was a better day, so I waited to Friday to fertilize. Well, by the time Friday came along, they took it out of the forecast again. And then by that time, when we did get a good chance of rain, it was really kind of late, because once you start bulbing, you don't want to put any nitrogen on the onions. So they'll be smaller bulbs, so they are bulbing up. We will get some onions, but they won't be the big onions we got last year. And if you'll make it up over here, I guess show this. This is my Hickory King corn. This is 2 weeks old, and it's starting to come up. So it's looking pretty good. Not real thick, but you don't want it real thick. So, that Hickory King will get 13, 14 foot tall. So if you have them 18 inches apart, you're doing okay. So, and I guess we'll just walk on up over this one over here. I'll do a quick deal of the tomatoes. Now remember, the tomatoes, they got bit back by a frost on that cold snap that we had. Because that night it got down around 35 or so, but I didn't cover them up because it was windy, and I didn't think we could have a frost that day, so the frost knocked them back. And then the next day, I did cover them up, and they didn't suffer any more damage. So I put cardboard boxes over it and buckets, and I put the tarp or the landscape fabric over the top of it. That seemed to work well. I didn't receive it, and it got down, like I said, below 30 degrees, and it didn't, suffer any additional damage. You are going to see some variations, and you don't have to just show you folks, just show the plants, but that's Sun Gold here. This one here is going to be chocolate cherry. And I did have them, I've got these put in cages, which you can see, Tropic Sunset. This is called Coyote. Bad thing about this one, if you notice, it's all bushing out sideways, still growing up, but that's probably because of the frost. So I'm not sure how it's going to do, but it's still going to produce fruit. Sunrise Bumblebee, the Blush, the Purple Bumblebee, which is doing good. The Mountain Vineyard, it's kind of going out like the other one too. The blueberries. This is a large cherry. The Napa Chardonnay. The Sun Gold. Now notice this Sun Gold looks near as good as the other Sun Gold, so you just get variability on these plants sometimes. And then that's the Champagne Bubbles.
Oh, hold on. They got me.
Yeah, they'll grab you. Right here. Walk around here.
Okay.
And this is Mountain Merit. And then Chef Orange. Dr. Witchy, or Watchy. That's not Dr. Watchy. Solar Flare. Purple Boy. Another Purple Boy. Another Chef Black. Another Chef Black. Paul Robeson. Mountain Merit, which is a very disease-resistant variety. It's a hybrid. Chef Orange, it's another hybrid. And then Chef Black. And then we go over here. Well, this way. So I can read it there. These two are Hausenators. That's the Hausenator. This one here is a Hausenator. And this one here is going to be Brickyard, and Brickyard, and Brickyard. And these are two Bellarosa and Bellarosa. And then you're going to have Roadster and a Roadster, and another Roadster. And then these last three are going to be Hausenators on the end. And this one on the end, I may put another one out. It's not doing very well. And then these, you can come behind me, are Invincible, 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 Invincible. And that's a Shelby, which is another new one I'm trying out this year. And that's a Shelby, and that's a Shelby. These I'm going to have to put on The last 2 rows, I will put those using the floor to weave. I'm not sure on that one. That's a Tashi. That's a Shelby. Another Tashi is going to have to be replaced. I'm thinking that's also a Tashi, and I think this here's one of them. This is one that I did replace this over here, but every one of the tomatoes that were made it, that was underneath the cover, so yeah, that did kind of work. But anyway, that's kind of the tour for the day, and if you got any questions or comments, put down in the bottom. Thank you.